Hi, good afternoon. I'm Olivia Nicholas and you're watching World Today. According to the United Nations, about 90 truckloads of aid had entered Gaza on Thursday, the first major influx of food that Israel had allowed in after a 2 months blockade that deepened the humanitarian crisis in the territory. However, aid officials said the shipment was a tiny fraction of what was needed. The UN Humanitarian Affairs Office and the Israeli military both confirmed that the aid deliveries were reaching warehouses and other points inside Gaza after days of delays. Israel conditioned the resumption of assistance on the United Nations signing off on a new mechanism in which they would distribute relief in areas under Israeli security control. The UN and many other aid non-profits refused, saying it would fundamentally compromise their work. Meanwhile, WHO Emergencies Director Michael Ryan said that 2.1 million people in Gaza were in imminent danger of death. The WHO stressed that Gazans were suffering acute shortages of food, water, medical supplies, fuel and shelter. 4 major hospitals have had to suspend medical services in the past week due to their proximity to hostilities or evacuation zones and attacks. Israel's 2-month ban on the entry of food and fuel led to widespread hunger in the enclave. Meanwhile, the Palestinian health minister said on Thursday that 29 children and elderly people had died from starvation-related deaths in Gaza in recent days.
In each birth, some of the newborns are underweight and they need intensive care to go. Now, with no electricity and no intensive care units for inmates, these are condemned to death. So they live only a couple of days and they succumb. And that's related to the not available. We have reached before the war a very excellent figures according to the WHO program in decreasing infant mortality, increasing newborn mortality, decreasing maternal mortality. And now all these numbers are reversed. It's now comparable to old Africa in some areas. And of course, that's great recession from the very high level that we reached.
Some United Nations aid trucks were allowed to enter Gaza on Monday after Israel agreed to allow limited humanitarian deliveries to resume following mounting international pressure. However, by Tuesday night, the organization said no aid had been distributed. Russia is creating a buffer zone along its frontier with Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke about creating a buffer zone a few days after his visit in Kursk region and his phone call with U.S. President Donald Trump.
Уже говорил, что было принято решение о создании необходимой буферной зоны безопасности вдоль границ. Наши вооруженные силы сейчас эту задачу решают. Активно подавляются огневые точки противника. Работа идет.
Commenting the call, Putin thanked Trump for supporting the resumption of direct talks between Moscow and Kyiv after the two sides met in Turkey last week for their first face-to-face negotiations since March 2022. After speaking to Trump, Putin said Moscow was ready to work with Ukraine on a memorandum about a future peace accord and that efforts to end the war that Russia began with its full-scale invasion in February 2022 were on the right track. Trump said he made progress during his call with Putin and that he also spoke to the heads of most European nations and Ukraine. Group of 7 finance ministers agreed on Thursday to maximize pressure on Russia, including through further sanctions if it resists efforts towards a ceasefire in Ukraine. The communique from the G7 group of advanced economies condemned Russia's continued brutal war against Ukraine and said any entity that supported Russia during the conflict would be barred from Ukrainian reconstruction contracts.
And finally, we have reiterated our support for Ukraine against Russia's illegal invasion including to ramping up sanctions if necessary, and to support efforts to foster private sector participation in the recovery and in the reconstruction of Ukraine. We also agree that no one who supported the Russian war machine will benefit from reconstruction efforts in Ukraine.
Diplomatic efforts to end the conflict have stepped up in recent weeks, with Russian and Ukrainian officials holding their first face-to-face talks in more than 3 years last week in Istanbul. President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful bill passed the House of Representatives early on Thursday morning with few Republicans' defections. The bill is a sweeping multi-trillion-dollar piece of legislation that advances Trump's agenda on taxes, immigration, energy, defense, and the national debt.
On this vote, the yeas are 215.
The bill sought to make a dent in the federal government's spending trajectory by cutting roughly $1.5 trillion in government spending elsewhere. According to the Treasury Department, the U.S. government is over $36 trillion in debt and has spent $1.05 trillion more than it's collected in the 2025 fiscal year. The bill passed 215 to 214, with just 2 Republicans voting against it. The bill seeks to permanently extend Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act while also implementing newer Trump campaign promises like eliminating taxes on tips and overtime pay and giving senior citizens a higher tax deduction for a period of 4 years. The legislation also included new funding for the border and defense, including more money for immigration and customs enforcement operations and $25 billion to kickstart construction of a Golden Dome defense system over the U.S. According to the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has blocked Harvard University's ability to enroll international students. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem ordered the department to terminate the Harvard University's Student and Exchange Visitor Program certification. In a letter to the university's administration, Noem said the university's Student Exchange Visitor Program certification has been revoked. The program is overseen by the U.S. Homeland Security Investigations Unit, which falls under the agency Noem leads. The move means that not only will Harvard not be able to accept foreign students on its campus, but current students will need to transfer to another university in order to maintain their non-immigrant status, the letter said. Meanwhile, Harvard called the move unlawful and a retaliatory action. Harvard is currently pursuing a lawsuit accusing the administration of defying the U.S. Constitution in its actions. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said in a televised interview on Thursday that if the United States aim to end uranium enrichment, then there will be no nuclear deal. The Iranian Foreign Minister said the idea of a uranium enrichment consortium with the participation of other nations is not bad, but will not replace enrichment on Iranian soil.
ما از حقوق خودمون که نمیگذریم. برنامه هسته ما هم که ادامه باید پیدا بکنه به شمول غنیسازی، ولی کماکان آمادگی داریم که اقدامات اعتماد ساز رو اتخاذ بکنیم، اقدامات شفافیت ساز رو اتخاذ بکنیم، نظارت‌های بیشتر. ما که از ماهیت صلح‌آمیز برنامه هسته خودمون مطمئن هستیم، بنابراین مشکل اصولی با نظارت‌های بیشتر، با شفافیت بیشتر نداریم، مگر اینکه بخوان حالا چیزهایی رو خلاف بر عرف تحمیل بکنن.
Iran and the U.S. will hold a 5th round of nuclear talks on Friday in Rome amid deep disagreement over uranium enrichment in Iran, which Washington says could lead to developing nuclear bombs. Iran denies such allegation and emphasizes its nuclear energy program is exclusively for civilian purposes. Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar on Thursday described his 3-day visit to China as highly successful, saying the trip yielded progress on diplomatic, strategic and economic fronts. Speaking at a press conference in Islamabad, Dar said the engagements in Beijing went beyond routine diplomacy, with clear and urgent objectives driving high-level bilateral and trilateral talks involving Afghanistan.
हमारी पूरी कोशिश है कि हम टेररिज्म के खिलाफ इंशाल्लाह लड़ेंगे। वहाँ भी बात हुई कि हम एक दूसरे को सपोर्ट करें, और ये ट्राइलैटरल में भी बात हुई। ये जो ट्राइलैटरल मीटिंग हुई, जो कल हुई, गुजरने वाला कल है, उसमें भी ये एक मेन की एजेंडा था कि हमने तीनों मुल्कों ने अपनी सरजमीन को इस्तेमाल नहीं होने देना टेररिस्ट के हाथों किसी दूसरे मुल्क के खिलाफ, और इसी तरह हमने अपने मुल्कों से टेररिज्म को इरेडिकेट करना है, इसका कला कमा करना है। तो ये हमारे रिजॉल्व था, वन ऑफ द मेजर रिजॉल्व ट्राइलैटरल मीटिंग का, और उसमें मैं समझता हूँ कि मैं अप्रिशिएट करता हूँ कि अफगानिस्तान ने और चाइना ने बिल्कुल एक ही यानी यूनिटी के साथ हमारे साथ इसका अज़्म किया कि वो ETM हो, वो TTP हो, वो BLA हो, वो मजीद ब्रिगेड हो, कोई भी नाम हो, terrorism will not be allowed to stay in these countries.
On economic cooperation, Dar highlighted progress under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, stating they have successfully laid the groundwork for expanded cooperation under the Belt and Road Initiative. Dar referred to the next phase as CPEC 2.0, signaling deeper collaboration. At least several people killed in a small plane crash in California. Stay tuned.
This year, the 46th ASEAN Summit and related summits bring together Southeast Asia's leaders for a more brighter and connected future.
With peace, prosperity, and partnership at heart, the summit paved the way for regional collaboration in trade, climate action, digital innovation, and more. More than a meeting of minds, it's a celebration of diversity, diplomacy, and determination. Join us as we write the next chapter of ASEAN's journey, inclusivity and sustainability. Welcome to the 46th ASEAN Summit and related summits.
Follow daily reports and live coverage on TV1, Saluran Berita, and RTM ASEAN.
In the lead-up to the 46th ASEAN Summit, the meeting of the Committee of Permanent Representatives to ASEAN, CPR, commenced this morning at the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre, KLCC. The meeting brought together ASEAN permanent representatives, the Ambassador of Timor-Leste and the Deputy Secretary-General of the ASEAN Political Security Community. It marks the beginning of a series of preparatory meetings, including the ASEAN Senior Officials Preparatory Meeting, PrEP-SOM, the PrEP-SOM for the ASEAN Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, and the ASEAN GCC China meetings. The PrEP-SOM serves as a key platform for coordination ahead of the Senior Officials Meetings, SOM, ministerial-level discussions, or the summit itself. It is designed to outline the structure and all critical details before any formal negotiations or official announcements are made. As part of the official summit program, ASEAN senior officials are also scheduled to attend a dinner hosted by the Secretary-General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs later this evening. A Thai court on Thursday ordered self-exiled former Premier Yingluck Shinawatra to pay $305 million in damages over a botched rice pledging scheme that saw her sentenced in 2017 to 5 years in prison for negligence. Thursday's ruling was on Yingluck's appeal against a previous order to pay $1.07 billion in damages to the Finance Ministry. Thursday's verdict comes less than 2 years after her family's Pheu Thai party returned to power after a decade in the political wilderness, coinciding with influential brother Thaksin coming home after 15 years in self-exile to avoid jail. Yingluck on Thursday said the order to pay 10 billion baht was excessive. Yingluck, one of 4 members of the billionaire Shinawatra family to have served as Prime Minister, has been living overseas to avoid jail for failing to prevent corruption in the rice scheme, which paid farmers up to 50% above market prices and caused massive losses to the state. The program, a flagship policy of her populist Pheu Thai party, cost the state billions of dollars and led to millions of tons of rice going unsold. Several people were killed when a small plane crashed in California neighborhood before dawn Thursday, destroying a home and setting more than a dozen cars on fire. At least 10 houses were hit by debris, and vehicles on both sides of a street went up in flames when the Cessna 550 slammed into the ground. The plane went down around 3:45 a.m. local time, striking the Murphy Canyon neighborhood. San Diego Fire Department Assistant Chief Dan Eddy told reporters one house had been badly damaged, but that no one on the ground had been seriously hurt. The San Diego Police Department said Thursday afternoon that at least 2 people had died, but first responders at the scene said the plane had been totally destroyed and they expected the toll to rise. According to U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, the plane had 6 people aboard. One of the dead was identified as Dave Shapiro, a music agent who founded San Diego-based Sound Talent Group. The company said 2 other members of staff who were aboard the plane had also died. It was not immediately clear what had happened, but the fire department's Eddy said a nearby power line appeared to have been clipped. Torrential rain continued to lash eastern Australia on Thursday, swelling already engorged rivers, engulfing roads and leaving almost 50,000 people stranded. The storms have already dumped more than 4 months of rain across parts of New South Wales in just 2 days. Lambert on their roofs to escape the rising waters as authorities dispatched helicopters, boats and drones on a major search and rescue mission. Authorities feared at least 3 people had gone missing. Some 2,500 emergency workers have been deployed to the region, Mins said, alongside rescue boats, a fleet of helicopters and hundreds of search drones. Emergency Management Minister Christy McBain said rain continued to fall and some rivers were still yet to peak. From the arid outback to the tropical coast, swaths of Australia have been pummeled by wild weather in recent months. Up next in sports, national shuttlers continue winning momentum in Malaysia Masters. Stay with us. Starting off our sports segment this afternoon, newly crowned Thailand Open 2025 champions Aaron Woyik became the 3rd and the last Malaysian men's doubles pair to make their way to the last 8 of the Malaysia Masters 2025. The 4th seed were simply above Liu Quang Heng Yang Po Han and outplayed the unseeded Taiwanese duo 21-13, 21-16. Aaron, who was delighted to check into the next round, said they did not even bother to think about who their next opponent would be and would rather focus on their performance instead. The 28-year-old also said the world number 3 duo's main focus is to maintain their consistency and chasing titles. Aaron Woyik, who were world champions in 2022, will face 7th seeds Ramos Kajade Frederick Sodag of Denmark, who denied an all-Malaysian affair in the last 8 after beating 2024 World Junior Champions Kang Kai Zing Arantai. Meanwhile, Malaysia is guaranteed a spot in the men's doubles semi-finals of the Malaysia Masters 2025 with professional pair and world number 2 Gauzy Faye Nur Izzuddin Ramsani set to face compatriots Man Wei Chong Thi Kai Wun in all-Malaysian quarter-final today. In yesterday's second-round action at the Axiata Arena in Bukit Jalil, the second-seeded Zafei Nurizuddin overcame a shaky start before defeating Taiwan's unseeded duo of Chen Zi Ray Lin Yu Chie 21-19, 21-13 in 30 minutes. In the meantime, country's top women's doubles pair, Pearly Tan Tina, admitted that their comeback at crucial moments was the key to their success in advancing to the quarterfinals after beating Thai pair Pichamon Pacharahi Sutsin Nanapas Soklad.
Overall, we are not very satisfied, but I think there's still room for improvement for the both of us, especially on the focus part. So I think that is really something that we need to look back and also prepare well for the next game.
The tournament's third seeds defeated Pichamon Nanapas in straight sets 21-13 and 21-15 in a 37-minute match to keep their momentum going in front of the home crowd after having beaten the Hong Kong pair in the first round yesterday. Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah collected the Football Writers Association Men's Player of the Year award for the third time on Thursday, while Arsenal striker Lisa Russo took home the Women's Award at a ceremony in London.
It means a lot. Winning this award is incredible. I always feel special winning this award. Winning something with the writers is so special, and with that gap between you and the second, it's just incredible.
Salah, the second player to claim the award 3 times after former Arsenal striker Thierry Henry, leads the Premier League scoring chart with 28 goals this season, helping Liverpool win their second league title since he joined in 2017. His teammate Virgil van Dijk was second in the poll, ahead of Newcastle United's Alexander Isak and Arsenal's Declan Rice. Meanwhile, England striker Russo, who has scored 8 goals in the Women's Champions League to help Arsenal reach the final, beat Manchester City forward and last year's winner Khadija Sow. Arsenal forward Mariona Caldente was third in the poll, with Chelsea captain Millie Bright fourth. Real Madrid's Croatian midfielder Luka Modric said Thursday he would leave the Spanish Giants after the club World Cup this summer. The Croatian has played nearly 600 games for Real Madrid since joining from Tottenham in 2012, winning the Champions League 6 times, the Copa del Rey twice and 4 La Liga titles among 28 trophies in total. Modric struggled at the start of his Madrid career after a move worth around 35 million euros, but quickly found his footing and developed into one of the world's best midfielders. Modric, who became Madrid captain last summer, won the Ballon d'Or in 2018 for his performances with Madrid and also his country, as Croatia finished as runners-up at the World Cup in Russia. Modric signed a 1-year contract extension until 30th of June 2025 last summer, but may stay a few days beyond that if Madrid progress from their Club World Cup group as expected. The midfielder scored 43 goals for Madrid in 590 games and is the club's 9th highest appearance maker, with former striker Raul is first with 741 games. Modric's impending departure is another blow for Madrid, who were already lacking in midfield after Toni Kroos retired last summer. Meanwhile, Barcelona winger Rafinha signed a contract extension until 2028 on Thursday after a spectacular season. The Brazilian, whose previous deal was set to expire in 2027, was vital as Barcelona won a domestic treble of La Liga, the Copa del Rey and the Spanish Super Cup. Rafinha, a candidate to win the Ballon d'Or, has scored 34 goals and provided 25 assists in 56 matches across all competitions. The 28-year-old is the joint top goal scorer in the Champions League with 13, but Barcelona were knocked out in a thrilling semi-final tie against Inter Milan. He netted a hat-trick in Barca's group stage win over Bayern Munich and a brace in the recent Clásico win over Real Madrid, which took Barca to the verge of their La Liga conquest. Rafinha's contract renewal follows coach Hansi Flick's on Wednesday, with the German penning a new deal until 2027. The Catalans have scored 99 goals in 37 La Liga matches and are hoping to pass a century on Sunday when they visit Athletic Bilbao in the last match of the season. Rafinha arrived in 2022 from Leeds United for around €55 million and helped Barcelona win La Liga in his first season. However, he came close to leaving the club after a disappointing 2023-2024 campaign, but was convinced to stay by Flick.
In tennis, Novak Djokovic overcame soggy conditions on his 38th birthday to beat Matteo Arnaldi on Thursday and reach the Geneva Open semi-finals in a tune-up event for Roland Garros. The former world number one retrieved a break in the second set to claim a 6-4, 6-4 win over the 39th ranked Italian, who dumped him out at the first hurdle in Madrid last month.
Djokovic is hunting the 100th title of his career on the eve of the French Open, having not won a tournament since capturing Olympic gold in Paris last August. Djokovic, who received a wildcard to play in Geneva after skipping Rome, will meet British qualifier Cameron Norrie for a place in Saturday's final. The 24-time Grand Slam champion had not won a match on clay this season after also losing his Monte Carlo opener at the start of April to Alejandro Tabilo. A single break early in the first set enabled Djokovic to take control, but the 6th-ranked Serbian had to rally from 4-1 down in the second. Djokovic, who had surgery last year to repair a torn meniscus suffered at the French Open, quickly rebounded and let out a mighty roar as he broke to go 5-4 ahead before putting away Arnaldi.
World number one Jannik Sinner, making his return to Grand Slam action following a doping suspension, is placed in a loaded top half of the French Open draw on Thursday alongside Novak Djokovic and last year's runner-up Alexander Zverev.
Sinner, beaten by Spain's Carlos Alcaraz in the Italian Open final on Sunday in his comeback tournament, could face 24 times Grand Slam champion Djokovic in the semi-finals. The top half of the draw also includes several French hopefuls, with a possible second-round tie against the darling of the Paris crowd, Richard Gasquet, in the Frenchman's farewell tournament. Alcaraz and Sinner, who have claimed the last 5 Grand Slam titles between them, face potentially tricky first rounds, with the Italian meeting Francis Arthur Rinderknecht and the defending champion playing Japanese veteran Kei Nishikori. Jack Draper of Britain, seeded 5th, could play Sinner in the last 8, while Djokovic may face German Zverev for a place in the semis. The French Open begins on Sunday.
And with that, we reach the end of our bulletin. In our top story, Palestine Health Ministry records 29 starvation-related deaths in Gaza. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Salaran Berita RTM for more. Or you can stream us live on RTM Click's website and mobile app. Till then, I'm Olivia Nicholas. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Goodbye and thank you for watching.